All right, so why don't we call the meeting to order? And because this is on Zoom and some people are going to get an audio recording, we have Chris Boyd, myself, Doug Moglen, Alicia Sullivan, Annie Hansen is our fantastic secretary, and Jim and Marlene. Do I have everybody? I didn't miss anybody, right?
That's it.
Okay, and we did have a test call a couple weeks ago, but it seems like it was a while ago. But anyway, the only rules different for a remote meeting versus in-person meeting is all votes need to be roll call. Anyone making a motion should just say your name and the motion you're making, and the person seconding a motion should do the same thing. Just so for the audio minutes that it's recorded properly. It's a little harder to discern on a Zoom call than it is on a in-person who made a motion and who seconded the motion and so on and so forth. So glad we could pick this back up. And it's been kind of an interesting couple of months for everybody, I'm sure. But I did want to kind of pull together a meeting just because there's been a couple of developments. I mean, one is we closed out the survey and finished that up, so I can provide the remainder of the data that came in. There weren't too many more surveys filled out after we had last met, till the time that I finally discontinued the survey. So we're at 200 and some answers to the survey. Remember the exact number. 268, 267 answers.
That's a great amount.
Yeah, it was a good number. And
I would say the majority of them are in favor of it.
Oh yeah, vast preponderance, and most of them are, you know, I can sort the data out, but it's most of them are Comcast users today, and you know the theme that we kind of talked about previous was very much in play here, where you know Comcast is okay, it's too expensive, right? And you know the quality of the service is okay, it's just too expensive, that kind of thing. So I will finish. I guess I can just email it to everybody, or I can send it to Annie and have Annie email it to everyone, so that you have a copy of the raw data. And then at some point we're going to have to just kind of summarize it. But there was two pieces to it. One was a summary, and one was a you know, the raw data itself. So I can provide that. And the second was I did finally speak to a vice president at GoNetspeed. He finally called me back. Then we played phone tag for about a week. With everybody working from different places and everything, it's kind of hard sometimes to get a hold of everybody. But he did finally call me back, and very super nice guy. They are doing a rollout right now in West Hartford. And they would love to come to Southwick if we put up about a couple $1 million. So I don't know that was the short of the conversation was, you know, they would love to do it. They just don't have the cash to invest in infrastructure beyond with the density, the density of a town like Southwick right now. They're really concentrating their efforts on, you know, extremely high yield, high density areas. So take West Hartford as a great example, right? Probably the person per square mile is probably what, 5 to 10x what it is in Southwick. So that's where they're concentrating their capital dollars. They would love to partner with somebody like a town to do it if the town was funding the infrastructure and they would manage it. But that's not, obviously wasn't what we were really looking for. Or maybe it is if you want to have a competitive situation to, like what G&E is proposing as well. You know, where they were proposing, you know, you would bond for the, you know, maybe they would bond for the equipment and offer the service. But this GoNetspeed was more looking for the town to step in governmentally to be the backer of a bond issue, if you will, to to do this. So I just wanted to relay that back and kind of report back to the subcommittee as to, what we discussed.
Thank you.
So that's my report.
On the survey, just a quick question if we can backtrack. Did you get the data as in like everyone's contact information as well?
Yep.
Nice.
And I was surprised. That's a good point. Let me, how come I can't find it now? Give me 1 second. I will share it because it was interesting that the number of people that left their contact information was, in my opinion, extremely high.
Agree.
I wonder if the answers would change now that everybody's home and using it. I mean, I think most of us probably have had pretty good luck with Comcast. I mean, at least for me, mine's been working relatively flawlessly, but I'm not so sure that would, that's not going to change people's minds in terms of pricing, but I would just be curious because I know a lot of the questions, or at least one asked what people were using the internet for, and now that they kind of have kids who are streaming classrooms and, being connected to work computers and all sorts of other things, if there's been any additional issues or, things that people are seeing.
That would be an interesting survey.
It's been, I think that you've seen a lot of the bandwidth consumption has been outrageous compared to what it was. And the usage patterns, I've been doing a lot of reading on this, usage patterns have changed also dramatically. It used to be, home internet consumption would drop off during the day and spike at night. Now it's just constant. But the, and business internet usage is way down as more and more people were, are now moving and working from home. So where's the?
That's not surprising.
No, not at all.
One of the things too that I've been kind of having discussions about outside of this committee is just how this will change the landscape going forward. So even when we do go back to quote unquote normal, whatever that looks like, if you're going to have, some employers on the commercial side, you're saying kind of, taking the position that we don't really need to rent all of this space, and our workforce was just as productive being at home. And if you start to see more and more people working from home and using their own internet.
True.
There's going to be companies in the future that will allow, I saw it just on the TV the other day, just a little thing on the bottom that said Twitter is now allowing all of the employees to work from home from now on.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to go back. I wonder how many people are going to do that in the future.
I wouldn't want to be a commercial realtor right about now. So I can, let me see, how do I do that? So this is the final raw data. So where'd it go? Close it out. And if you go over to the far right, just shrink that one up a little bit. Here's the people had open-ended response, but here's all the ones that have addresses. It's really, really high.
Oh, yeah.
So I was really surprised to the percentage that gave that data. It was a pretty good number.
It's pretty all over the place too. It's not like any one particular area in town.
No, it's all over. It's
Mhm.
all over. But you got names, addresses, phone numbers. I think you even have. I don't want to share too much of it because this is. You have to be careful because this is going to be part of the minutes. Yeah, it's all over the map. And it also, for interesting fodder for those working from home or even not, you can go on your Comcast webpage and look at your bandwidth usage for the last
Yeah.
6 months.
Yeah,
Mine's
I've seen
roughly 2.5 times. So February, and then it was about 300 to 400 gig, and it's been just about a terabyte to a little over March, April, May.
I would love to go on and look at mine because I stream my TV too, so mine's generally pretty high.
Yeah.
And I just leave my computer connected and on, like connected to a VPN for work, so I'm sure it's just sitting there.
We also found out that we used to have this backup program on our work PCs so that it kind of snaps an image and uploaded it to a server every night. Well, when you're connected to the VPN from work, it doesn't know the difference, so it does that. So mine was sending 5 to 8 gigabytes of data per day back over the VPN at night back to Wally's. So they had to cut that out because then they found out a bunch of us were doing it. And we were just murdering the bandwidth at WCA.
So we've got the data now, and we know that everybody's interested.
Yep.
What should be our next major step here?
That's a great question, Chris. I think the next step should be to summarize the data in some kind of PowerPoint and present it to the full board of selectmen to determine what that next step should be, and have a joint meeting with them and determine where we should go from here with this information, right? I think the data is good from the survey. Some of the feedback we got from, like a GoNetspeed, so we've talked to more than one potential provider. And because like we had talked about the process before, the process from here, if we decide to do it, is arduous. It's a long legal process. We had the attorney in that talked about it. And it's got to go on at least 1 or 2 town meetings to get put on it, or at least 1 through 1 ballot and 1 town meeting for sure. So
is this
not
something
gonna be
we'd want to
fast.
try to get on the ballot for the fall?
it would
Or is
probably
that
be,
too soon?
it would have to be on a town ballot. So it would more, I don't know. It would probably have to be during our town election. So it'd be a year from now, I
Yeah.
would think. Well, 9 months from now, or 10 months from now, because the elections move this year. But yeah, I would think would be the next time we'd want to do it. And then we have to talk to the attorney again to see, or go back to the minutes and review what that process was. But there was, you have to go through the process of forming an MLP and everything else, but you need the selectmen to support it and decide if that's something that they want to do. And you'd also probably, I would say, maybe the best thing to do that from there would be to have kind of an outreach meeting, if you will. If the selectmen say to, continue on, would be to say, maybe call, if we're able to meet in person in the near future, is to have a meeting at town hall, kind of an open forum where you could get that kind of feedback, positive and negative, because you're going to get both. And kind of, talk about what we've seen so far, summarize the survey, and then take input. Maybe you're going to find more people that even did the survey or will be interested to say, yes, we're interested in doing this, or, oh, hell no, what are you doing with my tax dollars? We don't want the government involved in this period, whatever. But you need to get that feedback to understand, if it's something worth expending, many thousands of dollars to go to the next level, right? We haven't spent, what did we spend? $200 so far. We haven't spent anything. So we need to look at how to, what's the next step, and what, before we start spending big dough to even decide to proceed to put it to a ballot question. What's the next step?
One of the interesting things that came up before was wonder how people have been doing with the pandemic, with the usage. And I'm wondering if when we have feedback from the community, there could be like maybe a way to address that question I know in general, some areas of the country were identifying that the schooling at home just didn't work for so many communities because many students didn't have access to high-speed internet or broadband, and that might be an interesting question, even if Comcast service was good in Southwick in general through these last few months. I'm wondering what the town has experienced with kids being at home and trying to do their schooling at home.
Well, it should be interesting. I mean, I think we've seen, west of here, they've had their issues, right? The kids out in Tallinn that don't have it, as far as
Yep.
being able to participate in some of the stuff that's been going on. I think in Southwick, you're going to find there's probably some socioeconomic drivers around some of that. You're right. And I also heard a lot of feedback from just talking. One of my neighbors is in the school system, and it's tough when you have more than one child and they're all fighting to use the device or devices if they weren't able to get the device from the school.
Mhm.
So it wasn't strictly a bandwidth issue, but if you have 3 kids that are supposed to be on a Zoom and 1 or 2 computers, somebody's going to
Right.
be odd man out.
Right. That just might be an interesting information to capture as
Mm.
we move forward.
And I wonder if that's something that comes up, if and when we have the public forum.
Hmm.
Because 9, 10 months from now, we'll have a little bit better idea, hopefully, of how things are looking.
Correct. And I think, and there's only, there's only some things that can be done too, as far as that goes, right? I mean, this is going to be strictly a pipe. It's not going to be the device at the end of the pipe. So that's going to be, and in fact, if you look at what the Whip City Fiber or Go NetSpeed or any of those guys is providing is just the tap. It's actually less featured than what Comcast provides. There's no TV at the end of it. There's no phone at the end of it. You got to bring all those yourself. So it's going to be interesting to see how people, what people think about that.
Yeah, I guess the one thing I also wonder is if it is identified in general that schooling from home, there just weren't equal opportunities for a variety of reasons. I'm wondering if something might happen in the way of funding that will come that we might be able to tap into as well. Like if there's some kind of need identified, and then there might be some funding that in general becomes available to communities. I don't know. If we're talking like a year from now anyway, there might be some changes that happen on a bigger scale that might be helpful to us.
Well, I think on the educational side, I think we saw some of it. I know the schools opened up to distribute about every piece of technology they had in their 4 walls to get them back to the kids, right? They were doing nobody any good sitting at the school. I know in Southwick, they distributed all the Chromebooks and the laptops and everything else to all the kids that they could. But even in the Southwick schools, it's not one-to-one yet. It's, in the lower grades, they were using carts for certain subjects. So the kids would take the laptop out of the cart. When that class was over, they'd put it back and it would be used by another class. I think in the upper grades, they were in the middle of rolling out the one-to-one. So that's no big, they just give those kids those laptops to take home. But in the lower grades, it was problematic. And then when this happened and the schools closed and they started doing stuff on Zoom or whatever the educational platforms they were using, I think there's probably definitely more than a few kids that, were caught a little short as far as not having a device. But I think that's a field of this topic here. It's going to play into it, but I think it's a field of the topic at hand because that's not what this is really providing, the broadband to the home. And then it's almost,
Right.
here's the service, right? You know, it's just like electricity. Here's electricity. You know, what you decide to plug into an outlet is up to you. You know, and then you go from there. So it's going to internet, looking at the internet like any other utility like that. You know, there may be options for subsidy for the cost of the internet itself, but as far as the devices, you know, that remains to be seen. Or maybe there will be mechanisms to do that through some other, I don't know where, but I don't think it shouldn't be the focus, I think, of our discussion here, because what we're going to provide is the ability for people to take better advantage of distance learning and work remote and so on and so forth. Because, you know, right now, I think even for some, Comcast may price themselves out. For some to be able to do, you know, even if the entry-level internet speeds that Comcast offer don't work for two people working from home plus a child doing schoolwork, maybe you can't do all that with the lowest entry Comcast product. I don't know, but you know, so you need to get up into the, you know, the second or third tier, which would be priced even with what we're talking about here, but at a higher bandwidth. So.
Thank you.
No problem. So should we reach out to the Board of Selectmen to try to get on their agenda for a future meeting? Probably right, I would say after town meeting. They're pretty, the town hall staff is pretty much laser focused right now on trying to get to June 17th, I think it is. 16th. What's today's the 1st, 2nd, and 14th? 16th will be town meeting, right? And
Look forward to it.
yeah. And then next week, a week from tomorrow, is elections, so the board won't be meeting. So probably after that, you know, maybe the first week of July. I'll mention it tomorrow to try to get on the agenda. Or maybe bring it up at that meeting in the first meeting of July to say, you know, we want to schedule something to come in to go over this. And we'll move it forward. And that'll give me a little bit of time to work with Annie to summarize the data, because that would be a good presentation to give to the Board of Selectmen. And then maybe, you know, work with them to schedule a kind of an outreach session.
That sounds good.
If I can help at all with the summarization, you know, summarizing or putting together the PowerPoint, just let me know.
Awesome.
Sounds like a good idea.
One of the other things that we've been experiencing is our internet is via a Verizon.
Oh boy.
And we've had ongoing problems with the internet just dying, and it seems it happens in spurts. You know, it's like there's a connection being broken someplace, and it goes down, and then it'll come back up, and it'll go back down again, and come back up again. And I wonder if our survey folks mentioned that about Verizon also, is that because calling their helpline is almost an active utility.
I don't think there are many people on the survey that had Verizon.
That's how I was actually just scrolling over to look at that, right?
Yeah, I don't think there were many. There were just maybe, just, as I recall, there was just a couple that said Verizon, not many.
But, you know, there again, the corporate, you've got to go through this. If you call to find out if the internet's down, it's at least a 5-minute task, because you're going from one phone tree to another phone tree to another phone tree. And then you finally get this reporting where, oh, I see you're calling from blah, 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 blah. And yes, there is service down there, and we expect it to be back up in an hour.
Yikes. So according to the survey, there was 8 Verizon,
Okay.
and one of them, of those 8, 6 of them are DSL, which is what I assume you have. And then one of them, it says cable, which I don't know if that's correct. And then one of them says mobile phone. So they're actually using their mobile phone as their internet.
Right.
And
And I
that's one of
realize-
the ones that didn't leave a
These
email.
issues are totally like Verizon related, so,
But I'm assuming you have DSL then, correct?
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, it's an older technology. You know, they're not really supporting it that much anymore. I'm assuming you can still buy it if you want it, but it's fairly slow. And I don't know what the price is these days compared to, you know, say Comcast. To see if it's even still economically, you know, makes a ton of sense.
Right. We don't expect you to figure that one out.
Well, I mean, it's just, you know, I mean, I'd be a dead duck right now if I didn't have reliable internet,
Right.
you know, in my line of work. And I think a lot of other people on this call as well, right? It's just,
Mhm.
you know, forget Netflix and everything else. It would just be, I could not do my job without it. So it is as essential utility to me as if the power went out. You know, losing internet right now is the same as the power going out here. I'd be, you know, just not able to earn a living. So, it's kind of an interesting time.
Yeah.
So does that sound
Thankfully,
like a good plan?
I think so.
Yes, it does. Sounds like a good plan.
Okay. Was there any other business before the board tonight, Annie?
So I wasn't here at the most recent meeting, which I want to say was February 10th. I know Alicia did those minutes. No, I think it was actually February 24th, if I'm not mistaken. She did those minutes. She did send them to me. Have we done a vote on those at all or anything?
Once again,
I don't think we have, but I don't think we have those minutes. Did you send
Yeah.
those just recently, Annie?
I should have emailed them before this. Is everyone okay if I email them quick, or should we put that off to the next meeting?
We can put them off to the next. You know what? Why don't you just email them? It's only take a minute. It wasn't a
Okay.
long meeting. Why don't we just do that? When was that? Here they are
It
from
was-
February 24th minutes.
Yep, Alicia did them for me. Thank you, Alicia, by the way.
Welcome.
And we did not vote on them?
We did not. I don't think we've had a meeting since.
Good point.
And I think I missed that meeting.
Let's see. Hang on.
Doug, are you emailing them, or would you like me to?
Either one. You got it? You have them handy?
Yes, I do.
Then fire them off.
All right.
I have them on my screen. I can, you know what? That's even easier. Hold on. This should only take a second.
Should I send a copy anyways?
Sure.
Okay. Alicia, you're getting them again.
Jim and Marlene, you can see my screen, correct?
Yep.
Okay, good. Is everybody reading along on my screen? Everybody's caught up?
Yes.
Okay. Alicia, looks like we took care of your conflicts for you there.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, I pretty much cleared my schedule.
Looks good to me.
So someone want to make a motion to approve the minutes of
Motion to
February
approve the
24th?
of February 24th. This is Marlene. I make a motion to approve the minutes of February 24th.
Do we have a second?
Alicia Sullivan, second.
Great. Actually, you can do this. All in favor, say aye.
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 I need to
Opposed?
abstain because I wasn't there, correct?
So now you got to do a bloody roll call. All right, Doug Moglen, aye.
Alicia Sullivan, aye.
And Chris Boyd abstain.
Marlene Quinlan, aye.
Jim Johnson, aye.
There you go. Now we got it all on the record. If we were all unanimous, it's pretty easy to tell who voted no. But
Come
Chris,
on,
we got you.
Chris.
All right, so seeing how there's, I guess that's enough for tonight. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
I need a motion first. Chris Boyd, motion to adjourn.
Chris Boyd, motion, second the motion.
Alicia Sullivan, motion to adjourn.
Very good. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposition to closing the meeting? None? Great. Okay. Everyone be safe, and I'll keep you posted on what I hear back from the Board of